Hi, I'm Ameera Khalid, and I'm the creator and host of the Powerful Podcast series, produced in collaboration with the Canadian Business Council Dubai. On the Powerful Podcast series, I will be interviewing a diverse group of Canadians and have thoughtful discussions that I hope will resonate with other Canadians in the region and across the globe. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you enjoy listening to the Powerful Podcast series. And if you do, please subscribe to the Canadian Business Council Dubai's channel on YouTube. You can also follow the podcast on the Canadian Business Council's social media on LinkedIn and Instagram. My guest today is Maria Vitoratos. Maria is the founder of #Strong, a careers educator, a coach, author of Empowerment for Teens, and a global speaker. Thank you so much for being on the show, Maria. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. Maria, you have a very interesting career path. Can you tell us the backstory about your journey to your current role?
Wow, that's a pretty loaded question. I think in some of it all, I've always wanted to help people, even as a university student. I knew I wanted to go into a profession that would let me help. At first, I thought it would be social work, and then I went into education. And from there, I kind of found my path through experiences, opportunities that arose for me and led me to where I am currently.
Maria, how would you describe your job?
Honestly, I mean, if we put the job tasks to the side, I would describe my role as thought leadership. And I think that whenever you take on, or whenever an individual takes on a role that has a really large potential positive impact, you have to be a thought leader. And that really means, for me, it's not that I'm thinking up things that have never been discovered before. I think that I'm creatively looking at ways to spread awareness for careers education. And that's what it's all about for me. So I would describe myself as a thought leader first and a practitioner second.
Maria, what is a typical day like for you?
I'm a single mom, and a typical day for me is jumping up as super early as I can. I'm also an entrepreneur. I wake up, I try to get up earlier than my children so I can get a workout done. It's really important for me to start the day with that workout, because if I don't, I feel really slumpy and slouchy. I eat all kinds of bad junk food. So my day starts with that workout, and then it's pushing the children literally into my car so I can drive my daughter to the bus stop and I can drive my son to school. And then I race back to the office and get started on my day. Stop midway through the day to get back in the car, pick my son up, and then it's back to back meetings. I create a lot of content. I create talks, public talks. So there's a lot of writing involved. And I'm also a graduate student as well. So I need to find time to get those studies in. And then, of course, being a human, you want to have some personal time. So trying to fit all those things in. So to answer your question, there is no typical day, but every day starts with waking up and trying to get that workout in.
So, Maria, you're basically telling us you're a superwoman.
I'm definitely not a superwoman. I think any mom out there, any working mom will relate and resonate with me. Anyone that is creating their own enterprise will also resonate with my day. I'm just trying to get the most of every day wherever I can. And trust me, I am not skillful. You just need to interview my children and they'll be able to tell you the real deal behind Maria.
Maria, tell us more about your two social projects, #Strong and the UAE Careers Community. How did you choose these areas to focus on?
You know, Ameera, both of those social projects chose me. And I know that sounds really unusual, but it wasn't like I ever sat down and created a plan to create either of those two social projects. They both found their way to me, one by chance and the other by survival, I think. So they're both very, very different social projects. Starting with the UAE Careers Community, I jumped into a role setting up a career service in an institution in early 2015, and I had needed to really change that conversation that educators and school practitioners were having in helping the youth youth consider future career aspirations. So in jumping into that role, I understood that creating context for careers education was essential for anything to change here in the UAE to begin with, because careers education is not a new it's not a new process. It's just different, and it looks very different when you're putting it to life in an institution. So I was on stage speaking about careers education and speaking about my book that I had just published, and then I found myself answering questions from other practitioners, and the next thing I knew, I had stood on this stage and said, you know what, why do we need to work in isolation? If anyone would like to join me and have this conversation, let's get started. And 4 years later, we're celebrating a national career community that brings professionals, educators, and career practitioners. And this year, we're celebrating new initiatives that are helping schools that don't have budgets to pay for career practitioners, and also collaborating with schools that do have budgets and working together to build a national career fair, which we've done for 3 years running. And then hashtag strong is a very different journey, a very different social project. It is definitely not something that I ever thought I would be part of, but it came to me again in a time when I was facing a personal situation. I lost my daughter to suicide in 2019, and I found myself getting praised for not showing vulnerability in public, for not showing emotion. And the catchphrase that was always tagged to my name was, "You're so strong." For me to be told that I'm strong at the darkest time in my life, I found it to be really hard, because the reason I wasn't showing emotion wasn't because I was consciously trying to be strong for the public. The reason I wasn't showing emotion was because my 2 younger children needed stability, and they needed someone to look to for that strength. So I decided that I wanted to share stories of real lives, of real people. I realized that when an individual goes through challenge and change, initially the community supports the individual and really cares, and very, very empathetic. But then suddenly I realized in my experience, there was a transition from caring to feeling sorry for me and for my family. And I wanted to change those conversations. So I invited people from around the world to trust me and share their stories with me. And the next thing I know, I am creating a social project called hashtag strong in the memory of my daughter, but always thinking about how can I help families who might be struggling with situations that their community, they don't know anyone that ever went through something like that. And hashtag strong is not about influencers telling their stories. I think too often we allow influencers and we allow people of public, on that public stage to be vulnerable, but we don't allow the average person to be vulnerable. So that's hashtag strong.
Maria, what were some of the challenges you faced when you first started out?
Wow, I think I've always been challenged with focus. I'm always thinking about these new ideas of new things that I can do. So even when I was first starting in my professional life, I always struggled with just stay focused on that one task. And I think even though, far into my professional life, here I am today, still struggling with the same thing. I just have all these creative ideas that I want to put out there. So I think my mom used to say, can you just stand still for a minute? And I think my mind is just constantly doing that. So that really hasn't changed, even though I am where I am today.
Tell us a little bit about what you like most about what you do.
I think they all connect. They're all interconnected. And what I love about my work is I feel really connected to empowering the youth. And I feel very connected to staying supportive with communities, whether it's my community right here in the UAE or my community in Canada or even my global community. I feel very, very connected to wanting to help young people feel like opportunities are there for them. And I want to also say that I love that I can be creative. When you're a thought leader, you're not standing at the front of the line and telling people what to do. You're really getting your hands dirty. And I love that I can do that. And I think that's what I love about my job. And I know that was more than one thing.
It just means that you're on the right track and doing the right thing. A lot of people out there might struggle to identify even one aspect of their work that they actually like or enjoy doing. Now, Maria, the Canadian Business Council is such a great support system for all the Canadians in the region. But what does CBC Dubai mean to you?
I think when I was considering joining the community, I got really excited about finding my Canadian tribe in the United Arab Emirates. And I've lived here for so long and never connected with a Canadian community. And so, in building the work that I want to do here in the United Arab Emirates, I want to bring this work home. And I feel that this community not only allows me to connect with my fellow Canadians, but also it helps me feel a step closer to my home country.
Maria, my last question is, what excites you the most about 2022 or the next chapter for you? Are there any specific projects that you're looking forward to?
I'm just so excited about raising more awareness for careers education and having the opportunity to stand up and take this work and offer it to students and parents across the country. I'm just so excited that at a time when young people are considering their future career aspirations, it's so unprecedented. It's such a vulnerable stage in their lives. And I am able to use my creativity and just get really brave and get out there. And that's what 2022 and 2023 is going to be all about for me.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Maria. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me.